blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. I told you I can only show you the door. You have to walk through it.
The speech came after a U.S. warship took action to defend Israel, intercepting multiple cruise missiles and drones off the coast of Yemen amid fears of a wider war.
The story is about Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. It continues to grow at an alarming rate. I am not the one saying this. America's top nuclear scientists are.
Man wrote a controversial memo to his commanders warning the U.S. could be at war with China in 2 years, and they need to be prepared.
Today announced the U.S. is sending military assets closer to Israel, including one of the Navy's most advanced aircraft carriers.
Shifting focus to Russia. A statement by the Kremlin suggests that Russia has tested its ability to deliver a retaliatory nuclear strike. According to reports, the command and control exercise involves the launch of ballistic and cruise missiles.
What's going on TikTok? 11/4/23. You guys see this? Millions of people flood the streets of Washington, D.C. to support Free Palestine. This is incredible. If not the biggest protest in history. Do you guys like this? Do you guys agree with this? If you do, smash the heart. It's right there. Leave a comment, drop a follow. Let's get this to the FYP.
What I'm doing is enabling all qualified Americans to serve their country in uniform and essentially restoring the situation that existed before where transgender personnel, if qualified in every other way, can serve their government in the United States military.
That's not a million people. I don't know what is. Wow.
Thousands of people are still waiting for their money tonight. U.S. Bank, Wells Fargo, Huntington Bank, everyone shared the same message about a deposit delay. Danny Spiewak explains what happened and when you'll see your money.
From Minneapolis-based U.S. Bank to Wells Fargo to Bank of America, some of the nation's largest banks experienced disruptions Friday with direct deposit. The Federal Reserve says it's because of a processing error with the centralized system known as the automated clearinghouse.
It wasn't at one of the banks. It was actually in the plumbing that feeds those deposits into the banks.
Greg McBride is the chief financial analyst for Bankrate.com.
It's unsettling going into the weekend to not see the deposit there that you had expected to see when you got up this morning.
The clearinghouse says this impacted less than 1% of daily transactions, but that's still thousands of users. Across the country, people flooded social media with complaints, asking if others were having problems with direct deposit too. One person wrote, "Direct deposit being messed up when rent is due is crazy."
But your money is safe, and the banks are working to get that corrected with the provider.
For example, U.S. Bank said in a statement that customer accounts remain secure and balances will be updated when deposits are received.
The money will be there. What you want to do is make sure that any payments that were scheduled to come out today, that those creditors are notified, that you're not assessed any late fees, and that if there were any overdraft fees that you incurred, that the bank reverses those.
There is no timetable right now for when all of these direct deposit issues are going to be fixed. The clearinghouse and the banks themselves say they're working together to fix this as soon as possible.
There are still good people. There are still beautiful people. There are still people that have a living conscience and a beautiful heart. May God bless you all. And by the way, the messages came from Christians and different faiths, not only Christians. I want to say to everyone, may God bless you. And may the Lord Jesus Christ always guide you into the truth, for He is the truth, and there is no one else but Him. But I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I am happy for one thing, as I said, I still see there are people that do care about seeking the truth and reaching to that truth. May God show you that truth. And Jesus Christ said it in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Every country aiming for the top is hungrily aiming at the U.S. China, Russia, North Korea. None is left out. But the U.S. has something they all don't. An advanced sixth-generation fighter the world has never seen. This $300+ million fighter would end any war targeted at the U.S. before the war even has a chance to begin. Packed with an avionics suite that makes it spot targets on the other side of the planet. An armament suite that enables it to strike targets on the other side of the planet. And a stealth suite that enables it to hide in plain sight. This new fighter is an aerospace revolution the world is probably not prepared for. Aerospace Revolution. Next Generation Air Dominance, or NGAD for short, is the program that'll develop the fighter that ensures the next generation of American air dominance, as the F-22 Raptor has done so excellently well for decades now. The new NGAD fighter will be slick and aerodynamic and feature an elongated blended fuselage that completely shatters the laws of physics. Within this fuselage will be 3 war-defining technological wonders: an AESA radar, stealth, and adaptive cycle engines. AESA radar. The NGAD program is also developing new and advanced active electronically scanned array radars that would power the fighter's sense-all, kill-all advantage. Active electronically scanned arrays, or AESA radars, have many advantages over the previous generation of radars. They cancel out the need to mechanically scan rapidly in different directions. Therefore, they lack all the clunky moving parts of their predecessors, making them far more reliable, and in some instances, more compact and lighter. They can scan huge volumes of airspace and large areas of the...
No. You have weird vision. You really do. Like, your vision is extraordinary. And I always wonder if that's from so much time in the mountains. Because one of the things they say that's f***ing with people's eyes is we're constantly looking at short distances. And it's sort of distorting our eyes because of that. And that's why Andrew Huberman recommends looking at great distances for, like, a good period of the day. Like, it's actually a good thing to do for your eyes.
Flat earthers. I've come to conclude that the earth is a sphere.
Here, what if this is where we live? Right there. Everything that you know is a lie. This is the World Cup soccer. Oh. Okay? They were in Doha. They wanted to go back to Buenos Aires. They went to Rome to refuel, and then they went back there. Why didn't they just go here? Because if they did, there's no place to refuel out here. On a flat earth, Doha, Rome, Buenos Aires. Taiwan to Los Angeles. They had an emergency right about here. Well, where would you land? Well, you could go to Hawaii. You might as well go to Los Angeles. Instead, they went all the way to Alaska. Okay?
Flat Earth.
Right? Flat Earth, Taiwan, Alaska, Los Angeles.
Ooh.
Okay. So, here's an emergency. They were going from New York to Hawaii, right about here, and they said, we have to land. So they went to Seattle, which is like 1,000 miles out of the way. They got there in record time. New York, Seattle, Hawaii.
Yeah. Who's directing the airlines to construct these flight pathways, Steve?
NASA.
So 50% of marriages end in divorce. 80% of divorces are initiated by women. 90% if she's college educated. 90% of child support payments go from men to women. 97% of alimony payments go from men to women. Thus, it's an L for, as a dude, just statistically speaking, look at the data, look at the stats, like it's not good for men. So my thing is, you never sign a contract with someone who is rewarded for breaking it. And women in today's day and age, if the guy's the breadwinner, they are rewarded by breaking the marriage contract.
Is everything we've been told a lie? Everything that they ever tell us is bullshit. And one of them is that food pyramid, that dairy is good for the bones and calcium. Literally, milk actually strips the bone of calcium. Look at the sun because it will make us go blind. Sun gazing actually stimulates your pineal gland to open up your third eye so you can move on different dimensions of densities. Everything they ever have told us is a lie. They tell us that our heart is a pump. Your heart is not a pump. Your heart is a valve. Your lungs is a pump that pumps the blood to the heart. The heart is a valve mechanism that controls the cardio output of blood. Everything they tell us about everything is a lie. They tell you your hair is just hair. No, our hair is non-ether hair. It is actually an extension of your nervous system. It is used to scan the environment, and it brings all of these different melanin neurotransmitters back to your skin to tell you whether to actually engage in the environment or take fight or flight and run away. That's why you get gut feelings. That's why when you see paranormal activities, the hair on your skin stand up. So everything that they ever told us about ourselves is a lie. But it's cool because they don't know who we are.
We're so close to World War III. We're so close.
It's no joke, man. It feels like that's what's happening.
It is happening. It scares the fucking shit out of me.
Yeah, it does me too.
And someone from the government was just having some sort of a press conference where they're saying, you know, we are at war and war is messy and this. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Shouldn't we be doing everything we can to avoid this? Every single possible thing that we can to avoid this.
There are sins that are unforgivable, and Jesus talks about those too. That's the rejection of the Holy Spirit, and that is a lot what is with this whole thing with the children. Many of them will never ever get a chance because when a lot of these pedophiles, and when they do these sins, God is telling them, do you understand? This is it. And they do it anyway. Let the dead bury their dead at that point.
Of the original WOW signal. The message included 10,000 tweets and videos from celebrities, including Stephen Colbert and the 2011 Miss Universe.
Tweets from Colbert and Miss Universe? Great, now the aliens are gonna think we're stupid.
Oh, don't take a cheap shot at a beauty queen.
Yeah, I was talking about Colbert.
It's hard to identify the sources of many of these mysterious sounds, because they can be far away, like the drone of a machine in a distant factory, or sounds generated by events that we can't see, like something deep in the ocean, high in the clouds, or even in deep space. But there are explanations for a lot of these mysterious sounds. According to a 2011 report from the U.S. Geological Survey, skyquakes, the rumbles heard on a clear day, could be caused by shallow earthquakes, or spontaneous rock bursts triggered by mining, or from giant waves breaking offshore, or loosely packed sand dunes reshaped by strong winds.
Ooh, that's a lot of wars.
Yeah, scientists don't really know what causes skyquakes. And the thunder-like sounds might just be thunder. Sometimes when the ground is stable, the sound of thunder can reflect off the earth and travel a long distance, and this is a process called ducting. This means the sounds of thunder can be heard without any visible storm activity. Now, some skyquakes might just be noisy fish sex.
I'm sorry, what now?
Well, male midshipman fish produce incredibly loud mating calls. During mating season, the sound can go on for hours.
For hours? What a show-off.
And when a group of males are competing for mates, they'll try to be the loudest.
Worst roommate ever.
Well, sometimes these mating sounds can bounce off buildings and boats. In fact, a group of houseboat owners in Sausalito, California, once complained about a strange sound that was loud enough to wake them up at night. They thought it might be submarines. Turns out it was just fish getting down.
If this fish balls are rocking, don't come a-knocking!
The hums usually have industrial explanations. Building air vents, high-pressure gas lines, high-tension power lines, heavy machinery, even sonic booms and oil derricks. But these don't explain all of them, but they do explain most. There's even a theory that a small percentage of people can actually hear the resonant sound of the Earth. This is called the world hum, though there's no proof that that exists. The bloop and upsweep sounds picked up by hydrophones could be caused by underwater volcanoes, or the collapse of underwater caves, or glaciers cracking, or icebergs scraping the ocean floor.
Or alien vessels.
I can't prove you wrong. The biotwang recorded in the Mariana Trench is now believed to be a previously undiscovered whale call. The complex sound has a lot in common with other calls attributed to the dwarf minke whale. And this is a minke whale. There is a problem with this theory, though. The minke whale only makes this sound during mating season. The biotwang has been heard all year long, so again, just a theory.
You know what the darkest conspiracy theory about aliens is?
I don't know if I'm ready for it.
That Earth is essentially a farm, and human beings are the vessels that contain souls, and they want us because this is how they create souls. They farm us. And that the whole reason why human beings are involved in this conflict, constant conflict, it's all of it is to increase our competition with each other, increase our ability to control resources, which will increase our technology, which will ultimately lead to us creating this being that we're going to create, this artificially intelligent super god, which is going to happen. I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just saying that this is like top of the food chain, put your tinfoil hat on super tight. People are going to merge with machines. It's going to happen in our life.
You think?
100%. 100%. They're already working on it. The doorway to it is going to be helping people with neurological conditions, injuries, spinal cord injuries. People can't move their bones, or they can't move their muscles correctly.
Welcome to Media Manipulation and Subliminal Messages, where we invent bullshit to keep people distracted. Who do you think invented the minions? Look what happens when you slow it down.
Nah, I want to kill my parents anyway. Not impressed.
Maybe you'll find this news to your liking.
We interrupt the president's perfect speech to bring you this breaking news. A recent poll finds that Reagan Ridley looks incredible in that ponytail. We're all talking about it.
Fair and balanced.
I just named our newest high-velocity missile after you. What do you want to blow up? Pick a country, any country. Finland's been pretty full of themselves lately.
Woof, this is bleak.
Do you not like it? Code Red, show her Plan B.
I don't hate this.
Okay, this is it. We're gonna have to tranquilize the animal again so that I can safely go in and get some samples. I'm gonna be taking blood, hair, and saliva so that we can compare to other sightings and establish a baseline genetic profile. Okay, so let's go. Well, yeah.
You can make a swarm of assassin drones for very little money by just taking the Face ID chip that's used in cell phones and having a small explosive charge and a standard drone, and have them just do a grid sweep of the building until they find the person they're looking for, ram into them, and explode. You can do that right now. No new technology is needed.
Why the fuck are we oiling down these holes like this? Just getting them nice and greasy. Getting all around the rims, because that's your job. Your job's to do rim jobs. But honestly, South Korea, I think you got this one down pat. Doesn't that make you just want to bust? Busted in all these cupcake holders. Look how many of these you have, it's ridiculous. The question is, can you make something tasty and delicious with it? I see gloves. I see squid meat. I see a clean environment, and I see a fast, passionate worker. Now, are you fast and passionate because this is what you love to do, or is it because you're going to get your ass beat? Money talks and bullshit walks, right? Don't mind some squid meat. The batter don't look bad, it's forming into something that looks half decent. And goddamn, you're quick and efficient with this move right here. Turn it into some white balls. You know, the fact that you didn't slide your ball sack across this food and use your bare hands, I'm actually very much interested in this. And it's amazing how many of these you're able to make in such a short amount of time. They look nice, cute, satisfying. More white balls in this tray than an Alabamian sister. If you guys weren't so close to North Korea, I'd probably want to come over there and give this a shot. And look how many of them you get in one serving. Pile them in a boat like a bunch of Cubans and give it a delicious sauce on top. You guys absolutely killed it. I would eat the entire thing, no doubt about it.
And given these bombings are being done using our tax dollars, perhaps we should ask some questions. For example, how does bombing a densely populated land strip filled 50% with children constitute self-defense? How does bombing hospitals, churches, mosques, and UN schools constitute self-defense? Well, you say if Hamas fighters are hiding in the hospital using the civilians as human shields, okay, let's say they are. Are you arguing that flattening the hospital and killing newborns in their incubators and their moms in the NICU, cancer patients, someone with a broken leg, the doctors, nurses, and just the women and kids hiding in the hospital, that's not a war crime? Because you would be wrong, according to international law. Well, why don't the people in Gaza just turn over Hamas militants to the Israelis? Okay, how do you propose they do that? Hamas is the de facto government in Gaza, and they're the ones with the guns. The leaders of Hamas aren't even in Gaza, and if they were, if you were a teenager living in an open-air prison, getting bombed day and night by, let's say, Mexico, and Mexican police kicked in the door and raided your house anytime they wanted and turned off the water and cut off your food, what are you going to do? Side with them? Help them while you're dying? That's like asking why black folks don't help or trust the police. Okay, but after 9/11, we bombed Afghanistan in self-defense? Yeah, we did. And did that put an end to Al-Qaeda or get bin Laden? No, it did not. Because like Hamas, bin Laden wasn't in the country we were bombing. President Obama got him 10 years later in Pakistan, using special forces and without bombing scores of kids to death. Bombing Afghanistan did buy us a 20-year occupation that got us more enemies in the Muslim world when we scooped people up on the battlefield and dragged them off to Gitmo. And when we threw in a gratuitous war against Iraq based on lies by a Bush administration that traded on our anger and our fear, the world rose up against us as we committed torture and tossed former Iraqi police and soldiers into makeshift gulags, and those prisoners later turned into ISIS. Oh, and the Taliban are back in control of Afghanistan. So again, what is the goal of mass bombing Gaza? Is it to find the people Hamas militants abducted on October 7? Okay, how? By flattening whatever shelter they're taking from the bombs? Don't you risk killing them all by bombing them with the Palestinians? Just some relevant questions. And trust me, people do want answers. Over the weekend, protests erupted around the world with hundreds of thousands of demonstrators rallying in cities in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Copenhagen, Rome, Stockholm, Kuala Lumpur. Scores took to the streets in the U.S., shutting down the Brooklyn Bridge in New York and a major highway in San Francisco. The call in each of these protests was for a ceasefire, a word that for some has somehow come to mean anti-Semitism and a lack of care about those who were brutally killed on October 7th, or even support for Hamas. So how then do you explain the family members of some of those being held by Hamas who are also calling for a ceasefire? And what would a ceasefire even mean? Well, it would literally mean both sides stop shooting. No more rockets into Israel, no more Israeli jets strafing Gaza. It would mean a prisoner swap negotiated by credible third parties, which sadly probably doesn't include us at this point. It would mean getting food, water, and medicine into Gaza and not pushing for 2 million Palestinians to expel themselves to Egypt or Jordan, likely to never be allowed to return. Hopefully, it would mean tamping down the McCarthyism and the doxing and anti-Semitism and Islamophobia and anti-Palestinian racism in our own country and in Europe. And then somebody, anybody, actually working to solve the real problem, which is a 56-year occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip that has sparked and will continue to spark vehement and, yes, even violent resistance, whether Hamas exists or not.
I want to make this clear. We did not torture prisoners, and we did not mutilate them. But to be a prisoner, you had to make it to the rear. You know. If he fell into our hands, he was just one sorry fucker.
That machete I got at home that I customized, I've cut many a head off with that. That's why it means so much to me. After a while, after about a month of seeing combat, it became natural. You know, it was a natural thing to do. I had a sergeant tell me when I first come over here, they call you green seed. He told me to stick with me. And he said, I'll teach you the ropes and you'll make it home. So I stuck with him. I seen things he done that I thought were wrong. But I thought if this is the way I got to stay alive, so be it. And I done what he said, and I made it home.
One of the things that I learned in the war is that we're not the top species on the planet because we're nice. We are a very aggressive species. It is in us. And people talk a lot about how, well, the military turns, kids into, killing machines and stuff. And I'll always argue that it's just finishing school.
How long
crazy.
before we're a cashless society?
This is where I get scared because it's too similar to the mark of the beast. It's too similar to exactly what it says. You won't be able to trade, you won't be able to do anything unless you have the mark.
How's the mark of the beast described in the Bible? Well, we should read it. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. It deceives those who dwell on earth. It also causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
I now Whole Foods and I'm about to pay for my groceries with my... That's the coolest thing ever.
So these Freemasons, so what did you like learn from like the Freemason stuff?
The biggest thing I learned is that Jesus is real, and all the real evidence of Jesus is hidden in the Vatican. That's why we're given like this hippie art and hippie Jesus. Well, just like the Bible says, the tops of like every institution, especially now for end times, they're all going to be subverted. They're all going to be evil. And why did they give you evolution? Attack on the cross. Why did they give you ancient aliens? Attack on the cross. Why did they give you
I don't
the
believe
Big Bang Theory? Attack on the cross.
I don't believe in aliens.
You don't believe in the Big Bang Theory either. How, you know, an explosion means chaos, but this explosion put everything into perfect order. That's the fucking most retarded intellectual design from no designer.
So these free.
My opinion is that they stole the election and they used Corona to steal the election. We'll talk about that in a second. But going back to Bill Gates, I don't think Bill Gates is a particularly malicious man. But if you look at the things the Gates Foundation does and some of the things they're interested in, I know he would benefit hugely. And not even about money. These people are above you. They would benefit hugely in terms of power, in terms of influence. My opinion.
اضرب هاي قبالك. الله اكبر ولله الحمد. الله اكبر ولله الحمد.
جعلنا من بين ايديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فاغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون.
يا رب هاي دباباتهم هاي جرافاتهم والله إنها بإذن الله ستكون دمار ووبال عليكم.
No decent person can watch the video of young people being murdered at a music festival in southern Israel without feeling horrified. It's awful, and there's no excusing it. No matter what you think of Israel's policies in Gaza, you are not allowed to shoot people at music festivals. That's a crime. Israel has a right to respond to that crime and to defend itself. No one seriously contests that. The question for American policymakers, however, is what do we do next? How do we represent the interests of the United States in this chaotic moment? That's not a selfish question. It's the whole point of making policy for a country, to improve and protect that country. If you serve in the U.S. Congress or in the executive branch of government, you have a moral duty to think this way. It's your job. You serve the United States and its population. You have no moral authority except to the extent that you represent your fellow Americans. That's our system. It used to be obvious, but it's worth remembering now, because the conflict between Israel and Hamas could escalate into a war between Iran and its allies and the West. Once a war like that starts, you could easily imagine the use of nuclear weapons and all that entails. Millions dead, the collapse of the global economy. At the very least, you could see an unprecedented energy crisis here. Already gas in one Bay Area service station hit $7.29 a gallon over the weekend. If that trend worsens and persists, the United States, which is already, technically speaking, bankrupt, would plunge into depression. And no, it would not be like the 1930s. Close to 10 million people have come here over the last 3 years from the poorest places in the world. The overwhelming majority of them are on some form of federal subsidies. You wonder how that's going to work out when the U.S. government runs out of money. So there's a lot at stake in how we encourage Israel to respond to the horrifying Hamas attacks. Wisdom and long-term thinking are essential, but you will not be surprised to learn that is not what we are getting.
Now I want you to get this straight. There is no difference between the chicken and the slave. You can get free-range chicken and you can get free-range slaves. Now let me break it down. You see this map? This is not the real map. This is the map that they show you to keep you a free-range slave. So if you want to go anywhere, you need a permit, you need a passport, and you and your family can have a jolly good time. But remember, you can only go to the places that they let you go. You can only go to the places that they show you on this fake map, because other than that, no authorized persons are allowed past that point, because certain places that are on and off the map, you're not even allowed to fly. So when you're up in the sky and you're wondering why the plane is taking the longest route to get to your holiday destination, is because the pilot has to avoid the no-fly zones, because the thing that they're trying to hide is that there's more land out there. I mean, there's places that you're not even allowed to go boating, and you know when man say you can't even go swimming, you know they're trying to hide something, and don't think you're smart and try to use your drone, because there's zones that you can't even use your drone. So all this time we've been living in the center of this map, not knowing that there's more land around.
You see any which one I could get?
What the fuck?
What?
Look at that.
It's Spider-Man.
That's fucking me. That's my fucking picture.
That's Peter Parker.
That ain't Peter Parker. That is fucking me. Son of a bitch. Look here. Look at Shrek. They even got my fucking face on his eyes. Oh, hell no. Oh, motherfucker. They even got me looking like Will on Stranger Things. Son of a bitch.
What the hell's going on here?
Where the fuck they get these?
Hey, they got the new Grand Theft Auto.
Motherfucker, that's me. How the fuck they get that?
I don't know, Granny. Did you give them permission to use...
Hell no.
poltergeist. The poltergeist.
Good. That was okay? But either they don't know the chiropractor can help with your condition, they're just scared. Oh, stuck. There. Good. Good. There. There. Boom. Look at with a gesture, have different condition. Would you recommend chiropractic care as safely? Were you comfortable in the whole process? Perfect. Tell everybody to come through, right? Thank you so much for coming, man. I appreciate you, really.
Is it time for dinner? When is dinner time? It's not now. You have to wait, Pud.
Come here! Come here!
If you use DuckDuckGo, you just get what's out there. When you use Google, you get really, like, I noticed that during the pandemic. There was a doctor that had a heart attack immediately after taking his second shot of, I think it was Moderna. And so I was like, what is that about? And this was like very early on. I Googled it, I could not find it. And then I went to DuckDuckGo immediately. And I was like, whoa, this is wild. Like, they're hiding this story. Right. So they would hide certain stories because they thought that they would increase vaccine hesitancy. If you're looking at a video now, this is so crazy to see.
This is the bottom of the supply chain of your iPhone, of your Tesla, of your Samsung. I mean, I'm just naming those companies. Right. It's all of them, right? All of them. And here's what you need to know, Joe, about this video. This is an industrial cobalt mine where there's not supposed to be one artisanal miner. Now, that's the term used for people who are just digging by hand as opposed to tractors and excavators. There's not supposed to be one here. That's what the story is told at the top of the chain. There's more than 15,000 human beings crammed into that pit, digging by hand. And if you have sound, you hear the mallets, you hear the shouting, you hear the grunts. And that's the truth that needs to get out there. That's the truth people need to understand, because this is a story that goes back generations. There's these fictions told at the top of the chain about what conditions are like at the bottom, and truth seekers have to go find that truth and enlighten civilization so that people get agitated about it and want to do something about it. So there's no clean cobalt. Let's just make that totally abundantly clear.
But are we really, this is an impeachment inquiry, Mr. Speaker. Is this leading to impeachment? Do you believe that the evidence that they're accumulating in these three committees is now leading to the ultimate impeachment in the House of Representatives of Joe Biden?
Next to the declaration of war, impeachment is probably the most serious power that Congress has. We do not wield it for political purposes, but we are following the truth where it leads. And you hear the evidence, you hear this laid out and summarized. Of course, you know there's much more than what we're able to do in one segment. We're going to follow the truth where it leads because we have a constitutional responsibility to do so. We're on it, and we're going to continue it.
Let me scan the room. How many of you think that that's where this is headed? Please raise your hand. Wow. The whole room.
He's here.
How did he find us?
This is a $100 million mega mansion.
Hey, where are the beers? Someone go get more from the garage.
I think we need more beer. I'll be right back.
Go to the garage and get more beer. Don't bring anyone either. Just go alone and hurry up because I'm real thirsty. Yes.
This is a definition of God. If you're a wise person and you're a good person, so that's Noah, there will be times when you have an intuition that tells you that you better prepare because bad times are coming. If you've been clear-headed and far-seeing, if you've conducted yourself properly, that's a spirit you should attend to. Might be that survival itself depends on it. That intuition, that's God. That's what the story of Noah means.
Yes, he got the intuition that the flood was coming.
Yeah, right. And the story insists that he was a wise man. So he's no fool who's running around thinking the sky is falling. Yeah. He's like a wise man looking forward and saying, look, trouble's coming. Yeah. Prepare. This is a
Sodium, which is a metal soft enough that you can cut with a knife, and it's poisonous and it'll explode if you put it in contact with water. Add chlorine to it, a deadly gas, and you have table salt. Okay? I have oxygen, which promotes combustion. Okay? Promotes combustion. Then I have hydrogen, an explosive gas. Put them together, you make water that puts out fire. Sodium.
And I have a list right here. How I'm preparing for what's coming. Number one is gold, ground. I have real estate. I mean, Kim and I own a piece of property in South Carolina that if all hell breaks loose, that's where we're going. We have oil and then grub, food. We have lots of food. And just FYI, China just announced that they expect famines to go across China now. So it's all coming. So these are the 4 Gs, gold, ground. I have safe real estate, gasoline, and food. So the property like Kim and I own that we're part of is a community of very affluent people, but we can grow our own food and catch our own fish, places loaded with deer and wild hogs. And
500 years ago, the cell's trick. No need to go to the tailor anymore. Even if the jumper's sleeves get longer, you don't have to wear sleeves. This sewing method is very practical. Let's sew more and more. It can be used for any sleeve. If you close the intention at the end, the sleeves will get shorter. Sew the bottom of the hole where the jeans have a hole in the crotch, cross-stitch left and right. Sew to the bottom of the hole and pull the thread lightly. The stitches are not visible at all. Cut off socks that you don't wear, and sew them to the jumper with this invisible stitch. And after the sleeves get longer, it will last for 3 years. Don't throw away the big collar either. One stitch on top and one stitch on the bottom, and gently pull at the end to solve it. What if the pant's waist is too big? I'll teach you how to paint and how to block without leaving any traces. Under sewing, upper sewing, and so on, pull once at the end and the waist will be corrected. For the bottoms, first open the thread from under the needle. Next, cross the needle left and right and pull the thread. Repeat this to sew the bottoms. Simple and practical bookmark.
There's not a fucking chance in hell that this is funny. And when you see those flat, corny, late-night jokes, those are so fucking cringy. There's a warm-up guy, and generally the warm-up guy's a failed comedian. What they're doing is just like reading off of a teleprompter. Colbert, there's Jimmy Kimmel, there's Fallon. There's literal applause signs that flash to tell you when to applaud. They're like, okay, explain to the people. Okay, when Jimmy comes out, I want a big round of applause. Let's practice this right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Fallon. Yeah. And everybody
practice it.
Yes. They'll train the audience. The banter was fake. Their dialogue back and forth was scripted. So they were saying, so Andy, you know, I understand you got married, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, I do. And so they're reading it, and I'm watching the class like, this is madness.
Dinosaur baby discovered.
You know of, there's a very famous painting that shows what appears to be men in crafts flying through the sky in the background of an ancient painting. That's the shape of it. It's also like a plate turned on its side, and then there's a person inside of it.
Yeah, man.
It's flying through in that same. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, look how it's flying.
But, you know, the thing is that everybody can say art. The one above that's pretty cool because that was a hidden thing. I've studied that one where it says Discovery 15th century. Above her left shoulder, there is an object, and if you really zoom in, look at the dude staring up at it. As a painter, my wife is a painter, everything is intentional.
Which guy? Where's the guy? The guy on the
right over there.
Right. That is so strange. Like, here you got Christ being crucified, and then above him, UFOs. That's supposed to be aliens, or is that supposed to be angels? Like, what is that supposed to be in these things that they have? It's real similar to what we're talking about here.
The Bible says it. As a man thinketh, so is he. So what you think about yourself becomes the reality of who you are. So what you put in here is going to manifest itself through your life. So I've realized I just need to insert so much good stuff here that it will naturally be a byproduct of what I spit out. And it worked.
Coming to America was the most significant thing to ever happen in our species. We are hunter-gatherers, early humans. We're basically following the herds. And the Ice Age hits. Well, what is an Ice Age? An Ice Age means it is so cold that when the moisture evaporates from the oceans, it doesn't rain, it snows. And the snow falls, and then it stays. So the water that had lifted up from the ocean does not return to the ocean. So during the Ice Age, the ocean levels dropped, exposing the Bering Strait land bridge between Asia and what is now Alaska. Our ancestors who come out of Africa go into Europe. They keep walking because there's a land bridge there, and they enter North America. The weather gets a little better. The Ice Age ends. The glaciers melt back into the oceans. The ocean levels rise. closing the land bridge, stranding a branch of the human species for 10,000 years.
That's the reason why today it is prohibited, and you can Google this, to do a DNA test in Israel. Totally forbidden. Wrong. It's illegal. It's a crime. You'll be jailed if you do a DNA test in Israel. Why? Because they know the truth will come out. You come from Poland, you come from Ukraine, you came from Europe, you came from everywhere else. And they were the original Middle Eastern Jews who lived together with the Muslims and the Christians for centuries. For centuries. So what happened to a lot of the Jews who were the Middle Eastern Jews? How come the Palestinians were all or predominantly Muslim? Did you know that there are hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Christians? Did you know that? Across the globe, they are scattered. They suffered as well. In fact, they suffered perhaps more than the Muslims. Do you know that their churches were bombed? Do you know that they feel more unsafe than the Muslims? Did you ever know that? These are Palestinians.
It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That's against their interest. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. The owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with